Welcome into another edition of Ask the Experts. Thanks so much for joining us. Back with us on the show this Saturday, it's Canada's top real estate agent, Faisal Susiwala with Remax Twin City. Faisal, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, David. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Glad to have you on the show again. And every time you're on, we learn something a little new about what's going on in the housing market. And just wondering when we're ever going to hit a plateau, or if we will. So let's get right into it. We want to mention, of course, if you'd like to get more information from Faisal, go online to his website at homeshack.com, or you can call him at 519-624-5555. As usual, we'll start with a market update. What are we seeing out there in terms of activity and pricing?
Well, we've come out of a very strong first half of the year. So in the winter, we did not expect the jump to be quite as drastic, but we've had over 25% increase just in the winter season alone. And we're close to 32% increase in prices. And of course, volume has been up as well. The majority of buyers concentrated on purchasing a home from March right through to June. So we had massive amounts of volume, lots of people coming into town and really looking at opportunities because everything that was previously happening was continuing where we had lack of inventory with COVID, that whole deurbanization movement, work at home, people looking for more space. So we've had a lot of people move, and the lion's share of the activity, I believe, has happened in the first 6 months of this year. Not to say that it won't continue, but there has been a lot of volume. We're going to see, you mentioned plateau earlier, we're going to see a little bit of a leveling off effect, not necessarily meaning that the market is taking a downturn. That's pretty typical for July and August for the volumes to go down. People typically are on vacation this time of year. So we're going to see a little bit of that. And then coming into the fall, we'll see some different type of activity. And we'll get into, what to expect coming into the fall and winter season as well and how to prepare. But generally speaking, prices have been up. Bidding wars are not as common. And if they are, we're not getting the number of offers that we were getting earlier on in the year.
And how's inventory doing? Where are we with that?
We've seen an increase in inventory, and we've also seen an increase in the number of days a home remains on the market. And that was to be expected because we're not seeing as many people coming into town. Remember, as September approaches and parents start thinking about getting their children into school, they're not considering a move after September. So we're really running out of time. We've got really 45 days left in this calendar year if a family has children and are relocating from out of town. So certainly something to consider if you're going on considering selling, to go onto the market fairly soon to capture any of that audience that's coming in from the GTA.
So, what kind of homes are people looking for these days, Faisal? What's being sought after, and what sort of features do people want?
There's a real urgency in finding multi-generational type of homes. Affordable living is not available. Therefore, parents are looking to move in with children, or children are looking at buying homes with their parents. Combined family living. We've talked about this whole tiny home movement where people have asked for the ability to add on to a home or add a tiny home into the backyard. We talked about this on a previous show that the region of Waterloo, especially Kitchener, has approved it now, and Cambridge is looking at that. We're up to, I think it was 800 square feet could be built into the backyard. So multi-generational living is a big requirement. People are looking for homes that have amenity space, that have recreational space, that have swimming pools, green belt, walkout basements. the ability to have a home office. And although, many people have started working from home, there might be a hybrid situation where, it's 3 days at home, 2 days at the office. So accommodations have to be made in homes. And a lot of the people that are moving out of town, from out of town, are looking for that office space within their home.
So, for home sellers, is this a good time to actually list their home?
We are at the tail end of being a good time. And that's not to say, again, that the pricing will drop, activity will drop, and let's not confuse the two. So, coming into September, October, November, right through to the end of January, I expect that pricing will be leveled off. So, if one wants to sell their home, I would suggest between now and the end of August is a prime time to be on the market.
And well, let's take a look at the opposite side then. Is it a good time to buy?
It's never a good time to buy when it's a good time to sell. So if someone's looking to purchase a home and not be in a competitive situation, not get into bidding wars, then they should probably look at purchasing in the fall, after mid-September, October, November, right through to January. They're not going to be competing with GTA buyers that are trying to get their kids registered for school in September. So there's going to be opportunity for all of those who are missing out and getting caught up in the bidding war situation and not winning. Your turn is coming. So definitely reach out to your agents and make sure that you're ready to trigger and have all the qualifying done ahead of that.
I've read recently that there have been some changes to CMHC, but didn't really go into detail. Can you enlighten us as to what's happening?
CMHC has a tendency of, having rules initiated, and then they sort of paddle backwards and say, okay, that wasn't a good idea. And that's happened recently, where they made it tougher for people to qualify. So CMHC, Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation, insures the bank on high ratio mortgages. So where one is putting less than 20% down, and even in some cases with 20% down, the bank may ask Canada Mortgage Housing to insure that debt. Now, their requirement was that a beacon score, so a credit score, had to be 680. They've clawed that back now to 600. Their qualifying ratios, GDS and TDS, gross debt service and total debt service, were much higher. Now they've clawed that back, I believe, to 35 and 42 from 39 and 45, I believe it was. So I'm not quite sure on the exact percentages, but they've clawed it back a bit. So it's making it a little bit easier for purchasers to qualify, whereas someone who walked in with a credit score of 625 or 630 was declined immediately. Now they're going to get approved because the credit score requirement is 600 as opposed to 680.
And in your opinion, is that you say it's a little easier, but is that a good thing? Should folks with a lower credit score be getting approved?
There's many instances where the credit score is reflective of, it could have been something as simple as an oversight on a telephone bill, or a utility bill, or a credit card that they thought they had closed off and there was a small balance. And something like that, if you've ever dealt with credit bureaus, it can take months and months of going back and forth trying to get that removed off of your credit. So, and then there's legitimate situations where, a matrimonial situation may have occurred, and because of that situation, one's credit went bad. They shouldn't be punished forever for that. So as they're repairing their credit, their scores are increasing, and that 600 to 680 could be the difference between buying now or waiting in another year where the market may be even higher. So there is value in that. So yes, I believe easing up on that is going to give buyers the opportunity to get into the market as opposed to renting.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Callender. Joining me on Ask the Experts today, Faisal Susiwala is back with us, the Remax Twin City, Canada's top real estate agent. Find out more online at homeshack.com or call 519-624-5555. In our first segment of the show, we talked briefly about the fact that bidding wars are not as common as they were, but for folks who'd like to avoid one altogether, When is the best time to purchase a home to avoid the bidding war, Faisal?
Well, coming into the fall market, I believe that the amount of bids that will be offered on homes will decline. So naturally, we talked earlier that the best time to sell is not the best time to buy. So if you want to buy, you buy off season. Off season will be when GTA buyers are not trying to get their children into school. They're not sort of tripping over each other and offering enormous values for homes. And it's not to say that those values are not well deserved, but when you have 8 to 10 people offering on a property, naturally the energy and the momentum of that negotiation is going to cause people to perhaps pay more than what the home is normally worth. Now, when you come into September, October, and right through until January, you will not have as many people bidding on those homes. So it's natural to think that if there's only 2 or 3 people bidding on something as opposed to 10 or 12 people, the number of offers ultimately will dictate what the value of that property will sell for. And even if there's 10 offers on the table, if 8 of those offers are not really great offers, it may drive the 2 that really want the property to pay exuberant amount of money for that property. So wait until the fall market where we see some leveling off. And that's in any given year before March and after September, we always see a little bit of a slowdown in the market. That opens the opportunity for buyers to get into the market who would have maybe lost on bidding wars in the past.
So, what can one do over the summer, fall, and winter to prepare for next spring?
There's so many things that we overlook with maintenance of a home. So it might be caulking, grouting, driveways, interlock, weeding, paving, cracks in cement, windowsills, roof. So all of that exterior stuff. This is a great time to get all of that work done, especially now that material prices are starting to come down. You can repair your decks and your fences. Those are really important things because you want to prepare now for the spring market. You can't wake up in March one day and say, hey, I'm going to put my house on the market. Let's start doing all this work, because the season for selling has advanced now, and it's sooner than what it used to be. So if you can get your home prepared in the winter, then internally, any repairs that need to be done to flooring, carpets, laminate, painting, any decorating, any updates. Now, I don't recommend that people go overboard on renovations because your taste may be different than someone else's. So what you want to do is create a situation where you're giving someone a very nice neutral canvas to work with. And if you've got lots of wallpaper and lots of stuff going on in the house, neutralize it, clean it all up so that it gives someone the ability to envision their taste in your home. And that will give you a huge return coming into the spring, because we do expect that the spring market is going to be thriving again, just like it did this year.
Other than doing those kind of repairs, if someone did want to do some renovations, where do you get your best bang for your buck when you're doing renovations?
Well, kitchens and bathrooms are always the number 1 and 2 renovation to do. But as more and more people are spending time at home, outdoor living spaces, a little oasis in the backyard. I know swimming pools are very difficult to get contracted right now, and but if you can put a swimming pool in your backyard, you're getting 2 times the return of the cost of that pool, which is very rare because in the past, I know over my career, I've had to get quotes on filling in swimming pools for people because cottage country used to be inexpensive. People would spend their summers away at their cottages. They didn't want to maintain a pool. But now what we're finding is cottage country is more than your home is. Therefore, people want their cottage in their backyard. So if you can create that oasis, that beautiful outdoor living space, that's going to bring a huge return to you as well when you try to sell a property.
Let's take a closer look at what the market driving forces are right now. What are the all the various things you have to consider?
Well, right now, the driving force to the market is interest rates because it's affordable to get in. But there's a direct relationship between the interest rates and the price. So as interest rates came down, pricing started increasing because your dollar would go further. Add to that the whole COVID situation where people want to get out of high density, intense areas and move into locations where they don't have common hallways, elevators, communal living, and wanted independent living. So a place like Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, and surrounding areas offer a little bit more land, a little bit more space, a lot of amenities, still within driving distance. So that's the driving force. Then we look at the lack of inventory in the marketplace. That has been the catalyst for prices going up because until we see the region, the cities, the townships allowing more development, higher density developments within the city boundaries, people are going to continue overpaying in some cases for homes just to get the opportunity to buy a home. So there's a lot of different things that are happening. The work at home movement has created a huge market because you can take the same amount of money that you got for a 1,200 square foot townhouse in Mississauga and buy a 2,400 square foot home in this region and still be further ahead, and still have lots of amenities available to you within the region.
Speaking of working from home, what if you look at your crystal ball and tell me? I know a lot of places are starting to talk about bringing people back to the office. Do you think that working from home is going to continue to be a major thing for Canadians?
I believe that there will be a hybrid uh, package that will be available to employees where they're working at home a few days a week, but they need to come into the office. What I have found that's missing in this whole working at home environment is collaboration. There isn't that energy that you can feed off of your colleagues and sit down at the round table and have a discussion and throw around ideas. You're kind of limited to your room and your the Zoom or Skype or whatever media that you're using, and it's just not the same level of energy and the ideas. I believe now there are corporations that are saying, well, no, this is working very well. I think there's certain segments of business that thrive in this situation where perhaps IT, programming, coding, accounting, bookkeeping, a lot of that can be done independently. But when you need to have that ability to sort of throw ideas around and think and collaborate and brainstorm, that just doesn't happen over a computer screen as easily as it would if you were at an office environment. So I do believe that there will be a hybrid program where people will go back to work a few days, which again, if they time it properly, they don't have to get up at 6 in the morning and battle the 401 to get to Mississauga or Toronto. They can do it, off peak hours. And I think it's going to eventually, basically give better quality of life to people who would have had to drive every day into the town or into downtown Toronto to get to work. So these suburbs are just going to become more and more popular as that happens.
Welcome back. This is Ask the Experts. My guest is Faisal Susiwala, a Remax Twin City, Canada's top real estate agent. I can say without hyperbole. You can find out more online at homeshack.com or call him at 519-624-5555. We've over the past couple of times you've been on the show, we've been talking about how important our community has become to people moving in from other places like Toronto and Mississauga. We've got a lot of new residents in KW. So with that increase in population, just how are we dealing with it when it comes to infrastructure? Are we being able to handle it? How is it affecting traffic patterns in KW? That sort of thing.
Well, it's really good to see the diversity in the three cities, Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo, and of course in Guelph and whatnot as well. But it's nice to see that happening within the cities, and every neighborhood has a nice mix of different people that have come in. There's places of worship that are popping up in all the subdivisions. So it's really nice to see that community feel. With increase in population comes infrastructure issues. Is it, are the roads able to handle things? Are the schools able to handle things? And I know that, especially in our region, we've seen a lot of roundabouts. And in fact, I took a poll a couple of days ago on Instagram, just asking if these roundabouts are a good idea. And I do believe that there is a place for roundabouts. However, the roundabouts that they're proposing in school districts is where my concern is. With the increase of population, lots of kids walking to school, to and from school, popping in these roundabouts in those major. So Franklin Boulevard in Cambridge is a hot spot right now where there's a consideration to put a roundabout in. And there's a high school there, and there's 4 other schools in the neighborhood. It's a high traffic area. And I don't know about you, David, but when I drive through a roundabout, there's a lot of stuff going on. You see cars coming from every direction, so you're dodging that. And just as you're accelerating out of a turn, you see a crosswalk, and somebody may be walking across or cycling across, and all of a sudden the car in front of you slams their brakes, which could have a chain reaction. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen near hits happen. And of course, we know there was an unfortunate situation near St. Mary's High School. But these are some of the concerns that we're having. Are we moving too quickly into facilitating, traffic infrastructure? And are we doing the right type of infrastructure in certain areas? Roundabouts are great, I think, in flowing areas where there isn't a lot of public traffic as far as walking and cycling. But when it comes to high density areas near schools, I think that one should think twice. It was interesting. I had about 1,000 people surveyed on my Instagram poll, and 75% of the people said that it's a really bad idea to have a roundabout in front of a school. And I tend to agree with that as well. So that's my 2 cents worth on infrastructure and traffic and whatnot. I'm not an expert, but just an observation from what I see day to day.
Well, I have to agree with you. Every time I've seen a sudden stop or a horn honk, 90% chance I'm driving through a roundabout. And as you said, those crosswalks, they seem to surprise drivers that there might actually someone be crossing. So do you have any idea of what we could do instead of roundabouts? Is there a solution?
You know what? I think keep the roundabouts. We're fine. Let's do the roundabouts, move the crosswalks, move them 100 meters north or south or east or west of that roundabout so that it's not smack in the middle. Like, those roundabouts have become targets where people are just walking, and they better say a prayer before they get into the traffic zone, because you don't know who's missing them. There's a lot of people that are not paying attention. Their attention is diverted. And even if their attention is not diverted, they're paying attention to other cars that are coming at them, behind them, in front of them, and to them. So why put another element, especially an endangered public, by putting a crosswalk right in the middle of a roundabout? I just don't see how that, and who thought of this as being a good idea. Crosswalks are great. Put them 100 meters, 150 meters away from the roundabout, have a flashing light or something, and have a designated spot where pedestrians and cyclists can cross over without coming into a traffic circle of a roundabout.
I am forced to agree with you on that one.
Okay, thanks.
On to our next topic, and this is one that's been talked about for quite some time, with just how active the market has been. There are always people saying, well, we're in a bubble. This is a bubble. It's going to burst. So what is your reaction to that, Faisal? Yes, no, and why or why not?
So as you know, I've been selling real estate in Cambridge, and I live in Cambridge for the past 33 years. I've been licensed here. Every year that I've been in the business, I have watched our neighbors to the east, Milton, Mississauga, Brampton, even Oakville, Burlington, and the GTA, prices increasing 8%, 10%. Homeowners just thriving at how well they're doing on their real estate investments. Investors just bragging about how the condo they bought 5 years ago has already doubled, or 3 times the value of what they paid for it. Where our region was 1%, 2%, 3%, and we never had that big jump ever. What has happened in the last 3 years, or maybe since 2017, is we've had almost a 40% increase in the average price of a home. That's not a bubble. It would be in most areas, but it's not in this area. We just caught up. We had never enjoyed those 8 to 10% increases year over year. So when we have a 40% increase over 3 years, the pessimists say, oh my God, it's a bubble, it's going to crash, the market is just out of control. We were so affordable, and good on people who bought while the market was down and held on and invested and did all the right things and grew their real estate portfolios, because they're going to really benefit from this. Not only are they benefiting from the values going up, they're benefiting from the rental market going up. And again, I feel bad for those who are having to pay premiums to rent and premiums to purchase. However, in comparison to Milton, Mississauga, Brampton, Oakville, Burlington, those folks were already paying those premiums because their values were already high. There has to be a balance. If prices are high, rental properties will also be at a high price point. So are we in a bubble? Absolutely not. Are we going to see a little bit of a decline? Are we going to see a little bit of a flattening? 2 to 3%, I do expect will decline between now and the end. Well, not so much now, but by the end of August to the end of the year. But we will be right back up next spring. So for all those buyers who are thinking the market's going to crash, I would suggest get into the market in the next 4 to 5 months when there is a little bit of softening, where there's less competition, where you're not forced into going into bidding wars, and enjoy the benefits of that coming into next spring and next summer, because I do expect the prices to go up next year.
Well, based on your answer to that question, I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say about the next one then. Is investing in real estate still a good idea?
It's always a good idea to invest in real estate. Now, invest wisely, do your research, don't overpay. So as an investor, I never recommend you get caught up in a bidding war. So if you want to invest in real estate, wait until November, wait until December, wait until January, where the market doesn't have this abundance of buyers that are coming in and they're motivated to buy because they got to get their kids into school or they're relocating for work. When the market is quiet and someone is selling their property, there may be an opportunity for you to enter into that without the competition. And as inventory increases, that's the time to start investing. I'm not an investor right now in this market. No, I will be when the market starts softening from an activity perspective, not from a price perspective, because I do not believe that the prices are inflated. I do not believe that it's too high. I do not believe that the market is going to crash and that we're in a bubble. So prices are fine. I just don't want to overpay for something or compete to buy something as an investor. If I was buying a home for my family today to live in, I have no hesitation in going on buying a home today and getting involved in a bidding war, because there's a necessity there. And I know that over time, I'm still going to be ahead because our values are still extremely reasonable in comparison to many other communities.
You've mentioned a couple of reasons as to why things slow down during the winter months, but are there any other reasons why things quiet down? Is it just that we don't want to move when it's cold out?
Yeah, that's essentially it. School is a driving factor, especially in this region. And remember, we are still a commuting population. Most of the people that live in the Tri-Cities were driving somewhere. At least one spouse was driving somewhere to get to work. It has changed with this work at home environment, but people are still thinking that, okay, this may be short-lived. And more companies are saying, okay, we want you guys back at our offices at least 2 or 3 days a week. So as that happens, we're going to see commuting is the driving force as well. So people want to move to get their kids into school. Now, coming into next year and the year after, when things may go back to commuting a lot more, we're going to see that increase in activity again of people maybe moving closer to the GTA market again because they don't want to drive so far. But right now, I'm going to say that we're going to see that relocation has declined right now, and that's creating an opportunity in the fall market, because corporate relocation was typically done in September, October, November, and which goes against what I said earlier, where people who are relocating want to move before September so they can get their kids registered. But for whatever reasons, executives seem to be away at their cottages all summer, and then they come back in the fall and relocate their key people. But with the work at home environment that we've had, corporations have not been moving key individuals overseas, across the nation, or internationally. So that will happen. So September, October, November were typically very strong months for me for corporate relocation, which hasn't been happening in the last 2 years for obvious reasons.
Let's move on and talk a little bit about the rental market in KW. What is the outlook on that?
We're seeing a shortage of rental properties, just like we're seeing a shortage of inventory in the marketplace. And that shortage is driving the market up. So we're getting bidding wars on rental properties. I could be asking $2,300 for a townhouse, and I'm being offered $2,400 or $2,500 just because someone wants to look better on paper so that they're chosen to rent that property. So that's, again, an indication that the market can handle. And it's great from an investor perspective, not so great from the buyer's perspective or from the renter's perspective. But it is certainly the driving force. Everything comes back down to lack of inventory, and everything comes back down to these regions should reconsider allowing higher density development. And I know that's not a popular thought with a lot of people who don't want it in their backyard, and they don't want those condo buildings, and they don't want high density stacked townhomes in their backyards. But that's the only solution to affordable living, is allow more homes to be built, spread it out. Higher density living on smaller lots will create more supply, which will create more affordability. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, and do you think that will actually happen?
It's happening to a certain extent now. We're seeing that the municipalities are allowing, in their different zones, less lot frontage than they were. So a typical home may have been, it had to have 40-foot lot frontage. Now they may allow 30-foot or 28-foot. A semi-detached had to be on a 20-foot. They may allow that on a 15-foot. So as they allow less front foot per dwelling, that will increase supply, and that will hopefully turn into more affordable living.
Thanks for joining us on Ask the Experts. My guest is Faisal Susiwala, Canada's top real estate agent with RE/MAX Twin City. Online at homeshack.com, or call him at 519-624-5555. In our last segment, we were talking about the idea that you say that it's always a good time to invest in real estate, but what should an investor really be looking at? What do they need to purchase an investment property? What should they be looking for? And for that matter, what kind of a return should they expect?
Essentially, an investor should have 20% down of the purchase price. So for example, if they're spending $500,000 on a property, they should have $100,000 to put down. That $100,000 can be taken from equity in their personal home. It can be extracted from equity on other real estate that they own, so they can take lines of credit against other rental properties. And remember, any loans that one is taking, they can write the interest on those loans off. So there's a benefit to extracting that equity instead of just sitting in your home. So use your home, your other real estate assets, or anything else that you can leverage to invest into real estate. But the 20% is the key. And my formula is very simple: 20% down, and you should try to have it paid off in 20 years. So that gives you enough of a runway where you can refinance that property if you wish to buy other properties, and brings you to a point where if you choose to retire at 60 or 65 years old, you've had at least 20 years to build up that portfolio. Most people get caught up in cash flow. They look at a property and say, well, I'm losing $150 a month. It's not cash flow positive. I'm not going to buy that. What I've found where properties are cash flow positive, they're typically triplexes, fourplexes, combined units, non-conforming types of dwellings that you're dealing with a lot of high property management issues. I tend to stay away from that. I like single family homes, not necessarily detached, but townhomes, condos, anything there's one family per unit. It's liquidity as well. So if you want to ever sell that property, you don't need another investor. You can get a first-time home buyer, someone downsizing, someone just looking to buy another investment property. But when you put 20% down on one of these properties and you look at a picture of 20 years, you're not just looking at cash flow, you're looking at appreciation. And I've mentioned in our past segment here that we've had 45% increase in real estate values in the last 3 or 4 years. If you had spent $500,000 on a townhouse in 2017, it's worth $750,000 today. So would I be concerned about $150 or $200 a month negative cash flow when I can earn $250,000 over 3 or 4 years? Now, this is an anomaly, it doesn't happen all the time. But if you look at it, if you're paying, and remember, someone is paying down the debt of your mortgage. So any money that you have borrowed for that property, that investment, is being serviced by the rental income that you're getting. So as long as you're breaking even or you're out of pocket, let's say even a few $1,000s a year, and I take that example of that $500,000 townhouse that was purchased in 2017 that we can sell today for $750,000. Even if they lost $3,000 a year for the past 5 years, that's only a $15,000 loss, but a $250,000 gain. So it makes sense to look at the property you're buying. Don't get caught up in the cash flow. Don't buy something just because it's giving you lots and lots of rent per month, because chances are it's communal living. You've got people living in the basement, on the side unit, upstairs, downstairs. There's noise, there's water issues there, and these are older buildings, they're non-conforming. So I tend to stay away from that, especially if you're a novice investor. You don't want to buy something that's going to give you a bad experience and you're going to say, I'll never do that again. I hear those stories all the time. It's very important that when you do invest in real estate, that you really monitor your property, you maintain your property, and you do proper checks and balances and credit checks on people before you put them in, because you don't want to have trouble getting them out again.
All very good advice. As we finish out the show today, as we usually do, we're going to talk about the fact that Faisal sat down and decided to write a book. And it's been selling very well. It's called The Real Deal. You can get it on Amazon. There's even an audio book. Why did you decide to become an author?
I've thought about it for many years, and I have an interesting journey. I started in this business at a very young age, visible minority, 18 years old, high school kid, no car. Thought I'd become a real estate agent. So that's not typically what a kid thinks about doing in high school, but that's what I thought of doing. And then it's been interesting over the years. People have often asked me to share my story. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to put it in a book. Hopefully it'll inspire some young people. And it also has a lot of important lessons that I've learned. I talk a lot about my failures in there. I talk about my successes in there, but I talk about strategies for not only people within my industry, it could be applied to any industry. And I've had some really great mentors in my life, people that I've been able to learn from. And I put those experiences in the book. And in addition to that, I've got a few chapters on there on just talking about my investment journey and what I look for when I'm investing in real estate, the things that the do's and don'ts, and what really works, and then creating not just a portfolio, but creating some wealth and how to do that, and then how to do something that you can live off of in your retirement, but also leave something for your family when you're long gone. So there's a lot of interesting things, and I just put it all together. It's a tell-all, so there's no secrets in there. It's all there. And I wanted to just basically share my journey with my amazing clients and friends.
It certainly is a fascinating journey, but for say someone who is a first time investor in real estate, if they pick up your book, what are the key messages they're going to get from it?
It's going to be about how to enter the market, what to look for, what not to do, where to really focus your investment strategies, and how to hold on to those properties. So you're not trading one for another. You're piling on, you're assembling, you're adding on. It's like basically a game of Monopoly where you want to own everything right beside each other and keep growing that portfolio. So it's a lot about that, and it's also some really good strategies on how to buy and how to leverage those purchases to buy more. So that's basically what I'm talking about in the investment aspect of that book.
Well, we expect that your real estate journey is going to continue for a number of years, Faisal. So, any chance that we'll get a part two, or you have another book in you?
I don't know if I have any more secrets to tell. I think I've said it all, but you never know if there's more that I've learned throughout this last year and a half or two. I'll be sure to share that content as well.
The book is called The Real Deal, and you can find it at amazon.ca. There's also an audiobook version of it if you'd like to listen while you're out and about. And Faisal, we want to thank you once again for being on the show with us.
Always a pleasure, David. Thank you for having me on.
You still have a chance to do some more learning at home, folks. If you'd like to ask Faisal a question, you, of course, pick up the phone and call 519-624-5555, or go and learn more online at his website. Always easy to remember because it's at homeshack.com. Thanks for listening. We hope you're going to join us again next Saturday for more of Ask the Experts right here on 570 News.